Hey, and welcome to Finlos Lives. I'm Finlos, and I'm so thankful that you're here with me right now. Today, I am going to take some time to examine what lies beneath our ordinary routines. The quiet, unshowy emotions that often steer our days more than logic does, more than like concentrated, focused thought. And today I'm going to be talking about what it feels like to miss people. And this is coming up for me because something that I've really had to adjust to since I've started working at my current job is that it has quite a bit of travel requirements. It requires me to leave home and be away for days and even weeks at a time sometimes. And it's been a challenge. It's hard to be away from the people in my life with whom I feel extremely close and whose routines are just intertwined with each other. So as I'm here in my hotel room in Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., I've been really thinking about how to describe what it feels like to miss somebody. I don't like often presuming to. I'll say actually that it frustrates me. It's a pet peeve of mine when I hear people say, "I know exactly how you feel," or "I know what you mean." You might have, or we might have similar experiences. We might all experience longing and missing people, but I don't want to assume that what I'm feeling is exactly what you feel. And I know that I might be belaboring this point and that it is understood, but I do think it's important that we recognize that individual experiences are just that, that my feelings are not your feelings. However, I do think it's interesting to try to find ways to build common ground. I talk a lot about the things that I see in the world, the things that worry me, and most of those really come back to the struggles that people have connecting with one another, both myself with others and others with me, but then the connections that I see people struggle with in their lives. And I think part of these disconnects, a big part of these disconnects, just comes from a misunderstandings, or even more fundamental maybe is a lack of interest, a lack of attempt to try to understand the experiences of others. Not to say that you have the same experience or that you're sharing the experience, but just to try to understand the experience of others. And language is symbolic. It's representational. So it's really hard to talk about feelings and to talk about the way that our emotions play out and ways that we can convey them clearly to others. Is why relationships are hard, because we have to find ways to relate. We have to find ways to connect. So all of this as intro to the idea of longing, the idea of missing, the idea of absence, and what do those things, what do those feelings feel like? How do we express that? And how do we learn to experience the lack of people that we care about in ways that are healthy, and ways that are helpful, and ways that are actually honoring that emotion? Because I think it is a very powerful and important thing. And so I'm going to try to do that by using an analogy, by comparing the sense of longing to an object, to something that I'm hoping is something that we can at least say we've seen or we understand, that there's this sort of commonality, and maybe that's a way of building connections by finding common ground. And just to sort of ground us in common language, most of us think of missing as an emptiness, as like a gap or a void, and then we experience sadness at that lacking. But I think more what it is underneath that is it's a structure, and it tells us how deeply connection actually organizes our lives and builds a sense of regularity, a sense of security. friendships, partnerships, family, all of these bonds, they write themselves into our bodies through timing and through rhythm and repetition. And so when that pattern breaks, we don't simply feel lonely. We get a sense of being disoriented. We get a sense of feeling off, of feeling dysregulated, of feeling frustrated, or whatever the emotion bubbles up. It's tied to that disorientation. And so to explore that, I'm going to use an object that's both mechanical and I think emotional for a lot of people, for nostalgia, for sentimentality, just for the quality that it brings to an environment, and that's a vinyl record. And I think this is really interesting. And I've been doing a lot of walking when I'm here because, well, one of the things that I do when I'm home is I walk with Eva, my partner, every day. And it's a way of us staying healthy and a way of us to talk to each other and connect and to relate our experiences of the day and to spend time and all of these things. So even when we're not together, being able to keep that routine going is a way of feeling like we're still kind of together, because it's something that we would normally do together. And it also just keeps the routine and of the day going. And as I'm walking, I'm in this town that I've now been to a few times, so I have a pretty fairly regular walking route that I take. And as I'm going around in basically loops around these city blocks, I started to imagine myself like wearing a groove into the sidewalk. And this is just purely imagination. It's a way to like occupy my brain as I'm walking, because I didn't have my headphones with me. So as I'm walking, I'm just, okay, this is now the 5th time. This is now the 10th time. This is now the 20th time that I've walked on this exact route. And I'm imagining this groove that I'm cutting into the path that I just constantly take. And that reminded me, because I'm basically walking in a circle, an irregular circle, but it's that rotation movement. But it just reminded me of the groove from which the sound comes from on a vinyl record. A record plays because of physical contact, just like my feet striking the ground. There's that tiny needle, the stylus, that moves through the groove on the record itself. That carved groove that translates the motion, the friction of the stylus within the tiny, tiny microscopic grooves and bumps and patterns in the vinyl. It converts those into sounds. And I just think that's a really cool analogy. I first of all, just because I'm a nerd and I like records, I think they're cool. But I love sound, and I love the idea of creating a groove that could be an equivalent to a record. And to stretch that even further, or that analogy even further, it is a record of my time here. And then just to finish the image, when you lift the needle from the record, the silence is there, but the pattern, the groove that was creating the sound is still there, even if the needle no longer is creating the friction which creates the vibration which creates the sound. It's still there. And that groove without the stylus causing the friction which causes the vibration which causes the sound, that lack, it's like the thing that is meant to fit into that groove is missing, and therefore it's the sound isn't there. And I think that that's a really interesting way of thinking about missing somebody, of longing to be with the people that we are missing. It's that lack of music. You know that like the groove is there, the needle's there, but there's just no sound. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about, is that process, how we feel the lack of something. and what are the emotions that come along with it. And so we can picture this, and if you've never seen how a record player works, most people have, and it's like, I forgive me for just taking a moment just to describe it, just in case anybody hasn't. You imagine you put the record on the platter, you flip the switch and it starts to spin. If you have a really nice record player, the arm automatically moves into place on its own. But for many people, you pick up the arm. And again, I'm not a big vinyl aficionado. Like, I don't know exactly what all the specific technical terminology is. So if I'm saying something wrong, please don't get angry with me. But you lift the arm and you gently place the stylus into that outer edge of the groove, and you hear the crackling, and then it's amazing. Like, the music just starts, and those two simple forces, pressure and motion, just bring the music to life. And that's connection. That's human connection too. Those two simple forces, pressure and motion. And all relationships begin in that sort of same way, wearing a new groove, something small, something specific, something physical that you remember a specific feeling, or something emotional, you remember a joke or something that the person said that made you feel a certain way, or an experience, sharing a meal, going to a movie, a running joke, any of these ways that people connect with each other. That's the start of a new groove. And over time, these small, consistent patterns build, I guess, a kind of a map of what the relationship looks like, these patterns of belonging. And I think of my own immediate thought of patterns, again, just with my partner, Eva. I think of my morning and how I have a very simple ritual every day of waking up and getting our mugs out and turning on the coffee maker, the very specific sounds that the grinder makes as it grinds the beans, the very mechanical, loud noise that the pump makes as it's building pressure for the espresso. It's almost automatic. It almost doesn't require any sort of thought, but it's the routine that brings the comfort. And when I bring her the coffee, she knows what to expect, because I've taken the time to learn, and we've communicated long enough that she has expressed to me exactly which is the creamer that she likes the best, and how much coffee and how much sugar, so that she knows what to expect. And so it's not performing. It's a knowing. It's a comfort. These behaviors have been calibrated to very specific needs and expectations. And these actions say that we know each other at a basic level of comfort. Like, it's a kind of trust. And yeah, it sounds basic. Like, routines like this create a sort of predictable pattern, but that's a good thing, because predictability it lowers our stress, and it creates security. It creates a sense of safety. It allows our nervous systems to know that we can relax, because we know what to expect. And through repetition, through time, as these patterns repeat and that comfort becomes more and more deep, the groove similarly becomes deep through repetition. The small gestures, the shared meals, the regular texts, the way that you know just when to put your hand on each other's shoulders, or when to give a hug, or when to ask for something that you need. It's the regularity. It's just like a very familiar song. It's warming. It's comforting. But of course, at some point, there's an interruption, and the song stops because the groove and the stylus, the needle separate. There's a space there, and for me, I travel, or maybe Eva goes on a trip that she's planned for a while, or maybe one of the kids go on an overnight road trip for school. Anything, any sort of interruption of that routine, you notice there's immediately the sudden change. And sometimes that's expressed by a silence, by a lack of sound, where normally the house would be, echoing with footsteps or the noises of cleaning or anything like that. There might be silence in its place, or the expectations of welcoming somebody home, or those conversations that you have to ground each other, to check on each other, or the routine at dinner time when you share your highs and lows. All of those things sound and feel different because the things that person brings, or the things that I would bring, they're missing. They're not there, and that routine is interrupted. And those are experienced in very physical ways. You might still reach for the mug, even though the person's not there to make you the coffee. Or you might turn over in bed to put your hand on the hip of the person who you're expecting to find, but they're not there. And those motions continue, even if the person is there. That's like an echo. And it's because our brains are wired for this kind of predictive coding. We expect the next repetition of the pattern. We expect that next note of the song. And when it doesn't come, we feel it like an error, a kind of glitch or static. Something is missing. And that static, that glitching, that missing is longing. It is missing somebody. It's tempting to romanticize this, because there is romance. There is a romance involved. There is a mark of desire that is embodied by the sensation of longing, of missing somebody. But it's also biological. When the people we depend on are absent, our cortisol rises, our sleep changes, our appetite shifts, and it's because the body keeps asking, where's the part of this rhythm that is missing? But that discomfort also carries information. It's a way that we can assess ourselves. It's a way that we can assess the quality of the attachment that we're experiencing. And it's a way of confirming, of assuring that we feel this and we experience this because that person matters. Missing somebody means that groove in the record exists, and we're missing the song. And humans develop attachment styles early in life, patterns of expectation about connection. They don't dictate behavior necessarily, but they do shape the way that we behave sometimes. For example, an anxious attachment experiences silence as danger. So when the needle lifts, the mind races to fill the gap. You might text the person over and over and over again. Your thoughts might spiral, and you're asking, are they thinking of me? Have I been replaced? And it's not that it's irrational. It's that the nervous system is demanding reassurance. Or if you have an avoidant attachment style, you experience the opposite. Your mind pretends that routine, that groove just never existed. And so you bury yourself in things and tasks. You avoid the reminders of the other person. And you just consistently tell yourself that you're fine. And so you trade the discomfort for control, and you find ways to control the situation. And both of these are strategies for managing that discomfort of uncertainty. But in contrast, secure attachment takes a steadier path. It recognizes that missing, that longing as temporary and survivable. There's still the tendency to want to reach out, but that gesture is grounded in the desire to maintain a connection, to say, just, I'm thinking of you. There's no demand for a response in return. There's no panic. It's just a contact. It's sharing a picture. It's sending a quick voicemail to say, hey, this just happened. It made me think of you. It's just a way to keep the record spinning and holding the space of that groove so that when you do reunite, the song will play again. And it's important to understand these patterns and to understand that they matter, because it helps us to reframe this experience from something negative into something positive. It helps us to reframe the idea that missing someone isn't a weakness. It's not a problem. We can use it to teach our body how to actually regulate and how to use the distance as a way of strengthening the relationship, of reinforcing the security that you feel. And just a quick detour into how some of this works, because there's a lot of actual really interesting science about this. Like, again, it's easy to just think about longing and desire as these sappy, sentimental, emotional, soft things. But when two people share space regularly, their circadian rhythms, their hormone cycles, and even their immune responses start to align. And it's got a cool name. It's physiological synchrony. It's a very subtle but very measurable thing. It's a shared tempo, a shared rhythm built from countless micro cues that have been learned. And the longer you share space and the longer you exist as part of somebody else's life, and the stronger your relationship, the more your bodies learn to understand and to sync with each other. And so when one person leaves, the synchrony changes, it drops. And the brain begins to search for signals to maintain it. Texts, photos, voice notes, any of these things to rebuild parts of the rhythm, to give enough of the pattern to maintain the sense of security, that sense of safety. And that's why even these short, brief messages can feel calming. Again, it's not about demanding attention. It's not about expecting that the person is going to take all of the time while they're there to reach out and reassure you. But it is reassuring. It is comforting, and it tells the body that the connection still exists. So maintaining those small, predictable pieces is important, and it's not clingy. It's a way of regulating. It's co-regulating. It's consistency. It's reliability, and it's maintaining the rhythm. We're talking about building a distinction or making a distinction between codependence and interdependence. And in codependence, the identities of the people in the relationship dissolves into the relationship itself. The groove, to go back to the record analogy, the groove is everything, and without the groove, nothing else exists. Whereas in interdependence, it's a shared groove. It's a pattern and a routine that is built by the constant sharing of cues between these two people. But each record has its own track. It's shared but still individual. And so when the stylus lifts, when the needle lifts, the records keep turning. When one person isn't there, the other is still able to get up. It's still able to make dinner. They're still able to go to work. They live their lives. And it's not just to prove that they can do it, but to maintain the truth to the self, because it is unhealthy to become so enmeshed in the relationship that without the other person, you don't know who you are anymore. Yes, your experiences shared create this groove, which creates this particular song. But when the other person isn't there, it's just a different version of the song. It's a different remix, maybe we can use as an analogy or as a way of extending the metaphor. And so healthy longing looks like this. You notice absence, you honor it, and you still function. You still trust, and you still are able to connect with one another in similar ways, even if they're not as direct, even if they're not as intimate. And again, these seems like really small distinctions, but it really is the difference between healthy and unhealthy. And I do want to pause here because I think that there's an interesting quality, or maybe even a different type of longing and emotion that comes from a permanent kind of separation. And that could be a death, or the ending of a relationship or friendship, or just something that, or a relationship that might fade over time, something that changes the quality of that recording forever. And this becomes a different kind of longing, which we usually refer to as grief. Whereas we think of, if we're using the record metaphor, longing, missing might be hearing the song that is the representation of the relationship, whereas grief might be more of hearing an echo, that the expectation of that pattern, whatever the relationship was, still exists, but over time the groove that was built by the relationship starts to fade, it starts to change shape, and over time it changes and it fades. And that can be a scary thing, because we can become so fixated on maintaining what was that we lose track of what is. And instead, we should just, maybe not should, because I hesitate to say what somebody should do, but it's possible to think of the memory as its own kind of song that is also evolving over time and builds its own kind of quality, because each time you replay the memory in your brain, each time you think of the person, you're biologically changing the physical qualities of those cells. And so the memory actually changes over time. And as you replay the patterns, the edges of that groove softens, and sometimes even the meaning of what the experience means, or what the relationship meant, the meaning and the feeling might even outlast the specifics of the memory. And that's not a loss. That's not a form of denial. It's actually just, it's adapting the song to meet the needs that you have for it. And we are so good at turning those losses into stories, so that the songs of our lives, and this is getting a little bit stretched thin, I'm sorry, but the songs that are the stories of our lives are constantly being reshaped by different kinds of loss, but also by new grooves that are forming by new relationships. If you listen closely, the grief and loss aren't just a silencing of that groove. It's not just a loss of that pattern. It's something that still exists very much in you, and it's okay to acknowledge that. And then it's also healthy to acknowledge that it's going to change over time. But if you know that there's going to be distance, if there's a trip coming, or there's going to be a separation of some sort, it is good to prepare, because the preparation can reduce shock. You can talk about what the expectations are before the separation happens. You can agree on how frequently you can expect connections, what are the most important things to communicate versus what can wait till you get back home. Because predictability reduces the anxiety that each person experiences, because the brain loves to be able to close those loops of expectations. It's good to maintain the rituals that you can, or to establish new rituals which kind of serve the same function. maintaining the regular high lows, maintaining the regular before bed conversations, sharing pictures of the things that you're doing throughout the day. They function as placeholders, and they maintain the presence of each other, of each person in each other's lives. And even the smallest things matter. The smallest, simplest text message or emoji can help everyone to just relax a little bit. It can reinforce the sense of security. It's a way of helping people to feel held, even if you can't be physically near them. And then, of course, eventually, hopefully, if everything goes smoothly, that there will be a reunion. But it can be more complex than we expect. After time apart, there's the realization that, especially if it's a longer time, that the groove, the pattern has actually started to change, because we do work to fill in the patterns with other things if time passes. It's just naturally how our brains work. And so if you try to rush back and there isn't a process of reintegration, of checking in, of making sure that everything feels normal, and if it doesn't feel normal or right, that you talk about it, that there can be dissonance. And it's importantly to be quiet and to share space and to listen to one another and to rediscover what the patterns were, and to allow for the slight shifts that have occurred, and to maybe even embrace what those shifts are, if they're a way of allowing you both to reconnect and find new ways to connect. Because you have to recalibrate. You have to readjust to finding that space again. You can tell stories. You can fill in the empty spaces that you weren't able to share through the messages. You can ask what they did, but don't interrogate them. You can see if they learned something new, or if they had an experience that they'd never had before. And instead of being jealous, show excitement, because those are really interesting things. And then you can talk about them and build new connections. And again, allow for the friction to take place, because there's going to be moments of friction. Like I just said, there's going to be, if I've always done this thing for this person and all of a sudden they're doing it for themselves, there's going to be that moment where we both start to do the same process. And rather than it becoming like a struggle, we can talk about, well, hey, do you want to keep doing it, or do you want me to start doing it again? And again, it's a way of building trust. It's a way of reintegrating, and it's a way of finding ways to reconnect and to talk about the experience, because these are real things, and harm can be done if you just try to go on without trying to make space for that and trying to learn from it and grow from it. It's just important to be patient. It's important to resettle and to find safety and to talk. But ultimately, if there is a strong, healthy attachment, if the relationship is secure, if the foundation is strong, if there is trust, that separation can even strengthen and deepen the relationship, because again, there are now new things to learn. There are now alterations and differences to the patterns, which can actually be fun and exciting, and they might bring new ways to share that time and space together. So I think I want to start wrapping this up. I think that at this point, the idea that I'm trying to convey is there. I just think that what's really cool and beautiful about a record is its fidelity, its predictability, its routine. It's knowing that even if it's not here now, it will be here. It's a beautiful way of thinking about being in relationship with the people that we care about. And it's a way of thinking about trust and love that I think allows for flexibility and independence and interdependence. I think that thinking about longing in this way reminds us that connection is lived as an experience that is both new and old, and it exists in a very moment by moment kind of way. It's not an owned thing. It's not a thing that we grasp and then hold on to. Because when those moments of silence and separation do come, the groove that we have etched into each other's lives is still there, and it's still waiting, and the sound will return. And so I think it's helpful to think of life and relationships as a series of grooves where the people that we care about, they fit, and we fit into their grooves. Some of them are shallower and some of them are deeper. Some of them will play once and want to very quickly forget that we heard. Others we will come back to forever. And when we miss people, we're hearing that person's groove. We're hearing the song that they have built in our lives. Missing is not emptiness, it's evidence. It means that the song exists. And it means that while it might be quiet now, that the needle will drop and the song will start again. Thank you so much for listening in on this episode. If you have comments, thoughts, or suggestions for future episodes, feel free to reach out. You can find me on social media or send a message to Finlos at finloslives.com. You can subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast platforms. That way you get notifications every time a new episode gets released. Or you can listen to the episodes directly from my website, finloslives.com. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to our next conversation.